Welcome into episode 498 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Bridget Prue here with Scott McLaughlin. No Brian today, but he'll be back next episode. Coming off a weekend I was watching way too much hockey this weekend. I broadcast 3 games, which I know you were following along with the BU game. And then I did 2 games at Providence, and then I came home and I watched the Bruins. And it turned out to be another Bruins win. So a lot to talk about. Lohrei gets back in the lineup. I know we want to talk about that, some of the ins and outs and whatnot of the game against Toronto. And they play Toronto again on Tuesday. So it's going to be the same opponent. We can talk about what they did well and I guess what to expect next game. But Scott, any other thoughts before we get to our opening shift?
Yeah, well, Toronto's melting down. So the whole hockey world's attention is on Toronto this weekend because it's also Hall of Fame weekend. And we'll get into some of that with Zdeno Chara going in, along with Jack Parker, Joe Thornton, Jennifer Botterill, who played at Harvard, like a lot of Boston connections there. So like everyone's up there, and Leafs get beat by the Bruins, who, I think everyone figured Toronto will be better than Boston this year, and that is not really playing out so far. And then they choke against Carolina Sunday night. So for the Bruins, it's 2 in a row against Toronto. Leafs, oddly, have a game in between, a back-to-back Sunday night up there, and they choke it away late against Carolina, and they're just melting down. Craig Berube said, guys aren't committed to defense. Like, not great times. If you're the Bruins, maybe catching them at the right time, depending on how Toronto responds now coming to Boston on Tuesday. But
these were conversations that were being had here not that long ago.
Yeah,
6-game losing streak here. A lot of the same things were being said.
And it's not even like Toronto's on like a long losing streak. I think they had actually won three or four or 4 or 5 going into the Bruins game, but their defense has kind of been an issue. Not kind of, it has been an issue all season. And there's it seems to be a lot of consternation up there. Poor Brendan Carlo is coming under quite a bit of fire. He has struggled a bit this season. So fans up there maybe not so happy with that trade, especially when you have Fraser Minton scoring a big goal Saturday to really seal that win, which let's get right into it. It's a 5-3 Bruins win. 6th win in a row. Goals from Geeky, Arvidsson, Asimon, Pasternak, and then Minton to seal it in the 3rd period. Make it 5-3, give them some insurance. So
that one felt like it hurt. Like you could hear the crowd be like, ow, that one stung, because this is a guy that should have been playing for us. And it just felt fitting too. It was one of those full circle moments, I guess, of a trade. And obviously there's going to the history of this trade will just keep developing because however either of their careers go on. But in the meantime, in the current moment, that was kind of the full circle of, all right, this was a great pickup for Boston on that deal. And we know what happened last year, and the aftermath of those trades wasn't just the guys that like Minton who you get. It was also the picks, and Hagens is gonna be here at some point, and that so all of it is the aftermath of this decision. And in this moment it felt like the Bruins had won that particular piece.
Yeah, and they still have a 1st round pick coming out of that. They have Toronto's 1st round pick in 2026. So
the story is not over for that trade.
No, and it could end up being a story that looks like a big win for Don Sweeney. Probably maybe still a little too early to fully declare that, but it does feel like it's trending that way.
And what I mean about Hagens too is just that the team tanked after they got rid of all those players, so they ended up with a higher pick, their own pick being higher. So
I'll go into my opening shift first, because mine is about a player who came back into the lineup in that game on Saturday, and that's Mason Lohrei, who had been healthy scratched for 5 straight games. Gets in really just because Charlie McAvoy was out. So McAvoy did not make the trip to tend to a family matter. We don't know any details beyond that. McAvoy was back at practice Monday morning, so all signs indicate he'll be playing on Tuesday. But Lohrei draws back in, plays third pairing with Jonathan Aspero, and has a really good game. Sets up Morgan Geekie for the Bruins' first goal, jumping up into the rush. Adds another assist later on a Mikey Asimon power play goal, which there's some interesting stuff to get into on that goal because it got reviewed and initially was called no goal, gets reviewed, changed to a goal. Turns out it actually still shouldn't have been a goal because the Bruins were offsides, but no one caught that except the Bruins themselves. So they got away with it. But Lohrei played a really good game. Not big minutes. I think he finished right around 15, maybe just under 15 minutes, 14:49. But really solid, involved offensively, looked smooth out there, made some plays defensively, kept it simple enough. There were none of the glaring mistakes. There were no miscommunications that I noticed. Seemed to mesh pretty well with Aspero out there. And now it looks like he's going to get another game, which obviously, in my mind, he clearly earned. Monday in practice, McAvoy was back, and Lohrei was still in the third pairing with Henry Jokiharju now. So it looks like that might be the pairing Tuesday night. Might be Aspero draws out. So we can get into that a bit. But, most importantly, it's just good to see Mason Lohrei respond that way.
And I mean, we spent how much? It felt like a half an hour on him last episode and talking about, when's he going to get his chance back in? If they keep winning, is he going to, and then obviously we didn't know that McAvoy was going to be out at the time. And that's the reason why he draws back in. And then you get to see the response. And it is the response that you were hoping for if you're Marco Sturm and the Bruins. And he comes in, you tweeted one of the advanced stats I saw, Scott, of, he was like the biggest not plus player. What was the stat?
Yeah. So it's at Hockey Stat Cards on Twitter, which pulls some data. I think like Dom Lucian from The Athletic has worked on this and basically pulls data from every game and kind of gives guys a game score, and it incorporates, offensive contributions, defensive contribution, like scoring chances for and against, special teams, power play, penalty kill stuff, and kind of combines it all into like one game score. And on Saturday, Lohrei had the highest game score on the Bruins. So by that metric, at least, he was their most impactful player. And I certainly think even just eye test, like he was certainly up there. He was definitely one of their best players in that game.
Yeah, I mean he's back on the power play. You talk about the primary assist on Geekie's goal. It was just good to see that response. And so yeah, him and Jokiharju, we'll see how that looks. That is an interesting combo. And by the way, so the Bruins, they beat Toronto 5-3. They do it without McAvoy. They do it without Elias Lindholm. They do it without Casey Mittelstadt, who is now listed as week to week, so with a lower body injury. So they're missing key guys, and they're able to put together this lineup that's still able to beat a team that we all thought was going to be one of the top teams in the conference. So very encouraging now to be on a 6-game win streak and to get a win against Toronto. Can you do it again on Tuesday? Is it going to look the same? Are they going to be extremely, pissed and come back and it looks different? Kind of like how the Bruins got their doors kicked in by Ottawa and then they played better against Ottawa the next time and kind of got a little bit of revenge there.
Yeah. I mean, I was on Sunday, I filled in on a little bit of Celtics duty because our guy Justin Turpin was on Patriots post-game stuff. And like the Celtics just went through this. Like they played the Orlando Magic twice in 3 days, Friday and Sunday, lost the first one, bounced back with the win on Sunday. Like, yeah, it's really hard to do like in season to beat a team twice in a row. And like that Ottawa game, it's like you had space between those two, and yet you still had guys on the Bruins side talking about like wanting to get revenge and wanting to show that they were much better than they showed up in Ottawa. You're going to have that same thing from the Leafs now. If that team has any character at all, like they're going to want to show that they're much better than what they showed on Saturday, because I would say especially some of their top guys, I thought had really off nights. I tweeted it during the third period, and I had some fans of my mention thinking I was about to jinx things, but like Austin Matthews was invisible in that game, like borderline no show.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bruin, when he was out against the Bruins top line, like that Toronto top line should be so much better. Like it just should be a more complete line than the Bruins top line. You have Matthews centering Matthew Nyes and William Nylander. Like that should be one of the best lines in the NHL.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Pastrnak, Geeky, Husnudinov, it's like you would think Husnudinov might not hold up in a matchup like that. Shot attempts were 8-1 Bruins when those two lines went head to head. Like it was dominance.
Yeah.
And again, if Austin Matthews isn't hurt and has any pride at all, like he should be wanting like to show himself way better Tuesday night.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's had some good games in his career in Boston, on Garden Ice. So, and I wanted to say too, before I get to my opening shift, which I almost forgot about, they scored 2 of their 3 goals on the power play. So if the Bruins play a cleaner game, you could say, all right, this might not even be as close. So,
and the third goal was right after a power play too. Like for all intents and purposes, that was also a power play goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5-on-5. The Bruins dominated.
Yeah. And so I'll get to my opening shift now because we're 10 minutes in and I forgot. Zdeno Chara to the Hall of Fame. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Tonight is the official induction. I've been following along with all the activities up in Toronto this weekend because they've had different Q&A sessions. They've had they all went and looked at where their plaques are in the Hall of Fame, and there was all sorts of events, dinners, everything. And so Chara's been up there, and it's so deserving. Every time you hear him talk, he's still just a really humble, nice guy. Feels like it's obvious that he was gonna make the Hall of Fame not long after his retirement. And there was one thing I saw yesterday from a Q&A, and it had all the people that were going to go in to the Hall of Fame tonight. And so Joe Thornton is another player up there. And Chara's telling a story about how when he came into the league, he was 53 and he always wanted to be 3, but it's retired in Boston. So he chose 33, and then Thornton kind of cuts in and stops him, and he's like, yeah, no, now no one can wear 33 either. So it kind of was like a joke, but congratulations in the same breath, because it's funny to see those two obviously played against each other a lot. They both played for the Bruins at different times. I think they both have a lot of respect for each other. And then Duncan Keith's there as well, another defenseman from that era with Chara that deserves it and is going to go in the Hall of Fame as well. So if you want to watch that, it's on NHL Network tonight at 8 p.m. Like you said, Toronto. It's in Toronto. I know some people that are going, like some of the BU guys are going to support Jack Parker, who's going in the builders category. My colleagues, Bernie and Mark, who broadcast BU hockey, are going to be up there. Do you know anyone else that's going? I know there's a bunch of people from the Bruins organization that are going, but I saw that Bergeron is up there with him, and there's a few of his former teammates that are also retired at this point that are up there with him.
Yeah, and I think as far as media goes, I think Kevin Paul Dupont is still up there covering it for the Globe, obviously. It's a good Hall of Fame class. Like, obviously with the Boston connections, and I know I brought this up like when they announced it, but it's almost fitting that like Chara and Thornton are going in together because they are tied together in terms of like the sea change of the Bruins in the mid 2000s. It was like you trade away Joe Thornton in November 2005. He was team captain. That was like, that era's over. Wow, my Boston accent just like really came out there, but
that era's, you got to add the R, the extra
yeah,
R that's not there. The errors.
No, over.
It's over.
But like then then they trade away Samsonov later that season. Those were the two that you were thinking you were like building something around. And then it's that summer that they go out and sign Chara and Marc Savard. And I saw Marc Savard was interviewed up there. Obviously with Toronto. So, I think it was Razor who interviewed him and kind of asked him about that summer and them signing together. And, and he said it was like right away, Chara just had this idea of the culture he wanted to set. That's why he was named captain right away. And, Savard's like, I like to think I helped a little, but it was really him driving it. And Savard did help a lot. Like he's selling himself short a little bit, but it's like that's the change. It's like you went from the Thornton era to the Chara era, and the Bruins end up winning a cup out of it. I saw Marco Sturm was asked about it because obviously he came to Boston in that Thornton trade, and said, in a way it kind of like worked out for everyone. Like Bruins reset their culture and end up winning the Stanley Cup in 2011. Sturm said he played his best hockey once he got to Boston. Thornton went on to a Hall of Fame career in San Jose. Obviously, the only thing missing was the Stanley Cup, which I know it's weird. It's like there's still the Bruins fans who kind of hold that over Thornton and seem to still kind of have an axe to grind with Thornton. I was never like that. He was my favorite player when I was a kid, my favorite Bruin at least. So I always wanted to see Thornton win. So like I've always been kind of bummed that he didn't, but it's weird. Like Thornton's just so, I don't know. He's just like such a fun guy. It's like you don't get the sense that it really weighs on him that much. I think he's able to appreciate his career for what it was. And still helping that San Jose organization. Like Macklin Celebrini lived with him for a little while, so like he kind of took him under his wing a little bit. Those two, and then like you said, like even beyond that with Jack Parker going in, who I covered on a daily basis when I was in college. Like very happy to see him go in. Alexander Mogilny, long overdue. Like just a great player, both internationally and as an NHL rookie, scores 76 goals. Like just insane. Was from that era where all the Russian players were like, a lot of those forwards were great two-way players. And I don't think he ever won a Selke, but like I know he got Selke votes as a winger, and was on at least one of those Devils Cup teams, maybe two. But yeah, good class overall.
Yeah, it stinks. Like that's an event that I would have loved to be able to go to. Obviously, you and I both don't have the time to be able to go. But you're going up to Canada this week, just not Toronto. You're going to Montreal.
I am. Yeah, I'll be driving up Friday. I was originally thinking about maybe doing Ottawa and Montreal because they're in Ottawa Thursday night, but didn't quite line up with my schedule on some other stuff I have to do here. So, but yeah, I'll be going up Friday and Saturday night in Montreal. That's a fun one for Bruins, back-to-back Saturdays in Toronto and Montreal, hockey night in Canada. So
you got to behave yourself, Scott. I don't know. You don't have me up there to
babysit. I can't make any promises. No. If anything, you're a bad influence.
I'm a terrible influence.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get the beer tower. You're like, I don't know if we should do that again.
Like, yeah, I'm not getting any beer towers on my own. Like,
no, exactly. So I mean, that's no fun, really. But have some poutine for me.
Lots of poutine.
And then hopefully we'll go back in to Montreal in March when they play on St. Patrick's Day. I believe they play on St. Patrick's Day itself. So that'd be fun. Anyhow, that week, I mean, that's one of the games that's coming up. Toronto, we mentioned. want to go back though to some of the other stuff we were talking about from this Toronto game, and I think there's more to be said about Lohrei, uh, and just him reacting, and I guess tie in Sturm's role in this too. Every single time he's done this and he's pushed the button and he's scratched the player, they have come back and they have responded.
Yeah, and I think, in Laura's case in particular, like, you see the team winning while you're watching from the press box, and as a competitor, like, you should want to be a part of that. Like, regardless of how you feel about, maybe part of him was mad at Sturm. Like, we don't really know. It doesn't seem like it, but yeah, like, you want to get back out there and be part of it. And you're seeing what the team is doing well during this winning streak, and like how committed they've been defensively, how connected they look, guys understanding assignments, knowing where they should be in the D zone, knowing how to defend the rush. Not to say that like there haven't been mistakes, because obviously there have been, but so much cleaner than it was earlier in the season. And you should be kind of like taking that to heart of like, all right, well, this is what I need to do when I get back in to stay in and to help the team keep winning. It's what Casey Mittelstadt did earlier in the year after he was healthy scratched. It's what Husnudinov has done, taking advantage of his opportunity, getting back in. And like Lohrei, he was a healthy scratch 5 times. I don't think it was 5 in a row. Might have been like 4 out of 5 games or something. But pretty prolonged stretch on the bench. So yeah, that's one game. And you could tell Sturm like asked about him, kind of wanted to give a little bit of a reserved answer. It seemed like maybe not, throw too much praise at Lohrei right away, because he was asked about it Monday after practice and basically said like, that's one game. Now we need it to be 2, 3, 4 games. And he mentioned how like for young players, it is that consistency that's kind of the hardest thing, is to do it night after night and be reliable. It's one thing when you've been scratched and you have that extra motivation getting back in to prove yourself. Like, a lot of times that's not super surprising. You come back in and play a good game. But now, can he follow it up with a second good game Tuesday? Like, and then can he do it for a third game Thursday in Ottawa? And like he's got to string it together now. If he goes out Tuesday and is a mess defensively and is on for 2 goals against and has a bad turnover, like, that's kind of going to wipe Saturday away pretty quickly.
Yeah, and does he go back to me in a healthy scratch right away again? Like, is he going to get 2, 3, 4 games to try to string them together and be consistent? Because if he has a bad game against Toronto Tuesday, is it just like same lesson, get back up on the 9th floor, Astros back in? Is it that quickly, or is there a little bit of leash after being out for so long to see what you can string together in a few games in a row? But I kind of have the feeling that bad game Tuesday means sitting against Ottawa. So
yeah, I mean it might, because like it's not like Aspro did anything to warrant getting scratched if indeed he is the scratch on Tuesday. So like, it'd be one thing if like McAvoy was going to miss a week and it's like, oh, well, this is your lineup. And like, yeah, then Lohrei is probably going to get a few games no matter what. But like, Aspro's right there knocking on the door himself. He's played well for the most part. So yeah, I don't think there would be too much hesitation to go right back to him if it doesn't look good Tuesday.
Yeah, and if I was him, I would be pissed. I mean, I've had situations in my career where like someone has told me like, the negative things about how I'm doing or whatever, and I come back and I'm pissed, and I normally do better, honestly. So sometimes it's good when someone tells you you suck, and then you get back out there and you're like, I'll show you. So hopefully that's just
I just gotta say, I think your podcast these last 2 weeks, since I told you you sucked and had to pick it up, I think they've been excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. You see, if Scott ever did say that to me, it wouldn't go well. But so anyway, something else that we need to talk about is they called up Steeves, and he is on your second line now. with Mittelstadt out, and Mittelstadt isn't coming back this upcoming game, and it doesn't seem like he's coming back this week. He's listed as week to week with a lower body injury, so he might be out for an extended period of time. And we already know Elias Lindholm is going to be out for probably another week or two, or maybe even longer, because he's also got the week to week designation as well. So the first call up that they make to their forward group is Alex Steeves. What do you make of that?
So I thought it made a lot of sense before I knew that Casey Mittelstadt was out. Like when I thought it was just, okay, he's there, maybe an extra body, or because Beecher was out and Johnny Beecher also missed Saturday's game, but he was back at practice Monday in a regular jersey. So it looks like he's healthier. I thought it made sense that way because I know they liked Steeves in camp in the preseason, and in particular, Sturm liked that Steeves has some offense to his game, has scored a lot of goals in the AHL, and also played well when Sturm put him in a fourth line role in the preseason. So there's some versatility there. Like Steeves can play a physical game. He can get in on the forecheck. He'll grind. He's a pretty responsible defensive player. So I thought it made a lot of sense there. And then when we found out that Mittelstadt was out, which just to maybe refresh people's minds, because I'm pretty sure this is when the injury happened, late in the second period of Thursday's game, he kind of took a knee hit / collision. And it was hard to tell if it was directly knee on knee or maybe like knee to thigh. Like, I don't know if it's more Charlie horse, but sort of like limped off, went down the tunnel. It was late in the period. He didn't come back that period, but he was back out for the start of the third period. So if I had to guess, I would guess that whatever happened there, maybe it swelled up, just kind of got worse after the game, and now has him out on, again, as Sturm said, a week-to-week basis. So when we found that out, I was maybe a little surprised, thinking, well, if it's a second line opportunity that they're filling in, could there have been someone else? Like Mate Blumel played on that second line a lot in preseason. So like that might have made sense. But I think they like the way Steeves has been playing in Providence. He is, not at the very top of the team in scoring, but is one of their leading scorers. And he does do other things. Like, again, we didn't see this coming, but Sturm has been using that second line as a matchup line. He's been using them against other teams' top players a lot. So if you're looking at it that way of like, okay, who can bring some offense, but also be responsible defensively, I still see why Steeves makes sense. Like I can see why he was the call. He probably is a better defensive player than Blumel, or if you wanted to go to like Pocher or Lysell, like the way that Sturm's using that line right now, having someone with some defensive, more defensive IQ makes sense, I think. And that line was good Saturday.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it's not the first call up that I would have thought of to fill a second line role, but it didn't look bad. And he's staying on that line, at least based off practice lines today, Monday morning. Seems like he'll be in that same spot against Toronto on Tuesday. So, but I do want to read off some of the Providence stats because he is not the leading guy in Providence right now. Ironically, Riley Tufte has 7 goals and 7 assists in Providence right now, and he leads the team. And then your guy, Patrick Brown, 13 points, 5 goals already in 11 games. So he's over.
Call him up.
I'm surprised that you're like, oh yeah, Alex Steeves makes sense. But when your guy Patrick Brown's down there doing his thing and he's not getting the call up, but over a point per game for him and Tufte and Blumel. Blumel has 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points in 11 games. So like to me, Blumel would have been the obvious one, but clearly, what we saw from him in training camp is different, and our opinion of him and where he could fit in is obviously different than the way that Sturm saw it. And so the fact that he's not that first call up to a second line surprised me, because I would have put him first and then maybe Patra and then Lysell.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't even know that it is that different, at least from where Steeves got to by the end of camp. Like I thought he was pretty quiet early on, and I was like, I don't really see a lot here. But by the end of camp, I liked the way Steeves was playing. And like I said, like he brings some physicality. He had a team high 5 hits on Saturday, so he brought that in.
You don't necessarily think of, oh, let's bring up our most physical player to put him on the second line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not normally qualities your call-up has for a second line.
But I mean, again, Steeves was second in the AHL in goals last year. Like,
yeah.
Like, I know he's a little older, so it's not like he's like a true prospect or anything that you're going to get super excited about, but like, he's put up points and he's put up goals. You know, it's not like there's no offense there.
Yeah, and he has got more goals than Patra now at this point in the season. He's got 3. Patra still only has the 1 and 6 assists, so he's under a point per game. And Merkelov right there at a point per game. He's got 5 goals, which, you know, that's not surprising for him either. He's been somebody that scored a lot in the AHL as well. So just different guys getting call-up opportunities, and like even just VL being on the team out of camp is you know, that's not, I think, what we would have seen with, and I know it's not the coaching staff's like decision alone because it's management's too, but last year with Monty, I just feel like it would have been maybe a different direction. Then obviously Steeves was not on the team last year, so that wouldn't have been an option anyway, but just the actual like vision of like, okay, who can come in right now? I think he would have probably pulled up Patra or you know, that's what makes sense to me. I don't think he would have pulled up Lysell. We saw how long that took, but
and there's also just like trying to keep the dynamic of a line where, like, you know, Zacha's at center. Arvidsson has been all right wing this season. I know he's played a little bit of left wing in the past, but you know, some other guys you look at, it's like, all right, well, if you call up Patra, we know he's better as a center than a wing. So like, are you moving Zacha back to wing to fit him in? If you call up Lysell, are you flipping Arvidsson over to left wing? It's like Steeves he can play both sides too, but like he's a left shot. Putting him on left wing makes sense. It would have been the same with Blumel, so like that's a totally fair option or comparison there. But just like put some numbers on their performance Saturday. So they do score the Bruins' second goal of the game off a really brutal turnover by Dakota Joshua, just giving the puck right to Victor Arvidsson in front of the Toronto net, and he kind of just pokes it home. But even beyond that, when that line was on the ice, they had 10:40 together at 5-on-5. Bruins outshot the Leafs 8-3 during that time, and the high danger chances were 5-1 Bruins. So, and that was almost all of their shifts were against Toronto's top 6. Were against either the Matthews line or the Tavares line. So if you're getting those results, it's like, I still see people even Monday morning, like, why aren't they giving Lysell a chance, Patra? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, you called up Steeves, he did his job, and that line had a really good game. Like, you're not going to change it after that. Now, we'll see if it continues. Again, if Mittelstadt's out week to week, there's opportunity here, and there's going to be more games to see how this plays out. But first impression, like, you can't really complain about how that line looked.
No, you can't. And it shouldn't be that surprising that when you think about the identity of this team and what it has to be to win, and what Sturm has tried to preach and tried to put together is defense first. And so when you think about it that way, it's not all that surprising that somebody like Lysell doesn't get the opportunity, or even Patra still has room for growth and development in that side of his game. So when you think about it outside of what we think of these guys' talents, the fit might be better with someone like Steve in the system that they're trying to have, because there's less risk involved with him as well than somebody like Lysell, and even Patra at times. Like this, he's bigger, he holds up against bigger guys, and it makes sense if you look at it that way. But I know obviously there are people who are upset that these younger guys should be getting an opportunity in their minds. So wanted to bring it up. And I don't know if you have anything else to say too about how Mittelstadt. You're now missing 2 top 6 guys. You're missing Elias Lindholm. You're missing Mittelstadt. The week-to-week designation is probably the worst in terms of trying to understand how long someone's going to be out. So it's like, okay, and we don't know.
Yeah, I will say
for weeks.
On Monday, Sturm did say that. So Mittelstadt was at Warrior on Monday, and Sturm did say he's doing better than we thought he would be. So whatever it is he's dealing with seems to feel better and maybe be a little ahead of what they might have initially thought. And he said we hope to get him back on the ice soon. So I'd say that's, at least skating on his own, if not necessarily like fully practicing. I wanted to throw out here just a couple of numbers on, specifically because you brought up Elias Lindholm still being out. Now, I'm not saying this to make an argument that Husnadinov's a better player than Elias Lindholm right now. But I just want to throw out some numbers here of what that line, specifically with Pastrnak and Geekie, has been with those 2 different centers. So with Elias Lindholm between Geekie and Pastrnak, that line had played 113 minutes together at 5-on-5. The Bruins were outscored 8-4 during that time, and their expected goals was 44.8%, which is not very good. So giving up a lot more chances than they were getting. With Husnadinov at center between Pastrnak and Geekie, that's now up to 46 minutes together at 5-on-5. Bruins are up 3-2 in goals, and expected goals is 59.2%, almost 60%. So the raw numbers and the analytics have been much better with Husnadinov there. I just think that's interesting and worth noting. And I do think part of it is I think Pastrnak and Geekie are both playing better at 5-on-5 now than they were a few weeks ago. Like I thought those guys were racking up some points in the power play, but their 5-on-5 game wasn't quite there. And I do wonder if part of that is like maybe those are guys who were, we talk about defensemen taking a little while to kind of get Sturm's system and start to execute it. Like I think up front, I think those guys might have been struggling a little bit, which is why you even saw, Geekie get dropped off the first line at one point. So just something to keep an eye on. That not only has that top line not missed a beat without Lindholm there, but they've actually been playing better hockey recently.
Also, what do you do when Lindholm comes back with Husnadinov? Like where does he go?
Yeah. Right. Like I would think like normally my instinct would be like he's playing like a third liner right now. But you also have a third line that's rolling with Jeannot and Kastelik flanking Fraser Minton. I think all 3 of those guys are playing their best hockey of the season right now. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, do you bump Husnadinov back out to the wing? You probably have to because I don't think there's anyone else playing center right now that you're moving to the wing. So, I don't know. Does he go back to the 4th line, which they've been moving some guys around there? Like that's not the ideal spot for him.
It doesn't feel like the optimal way to get the most out of a player. It doesn't feel like it's deserved, right? It feels like you're on this win streak and he's been there and when he started out on the first line, he was on the left wing and Elias Lindholm was the center until he got hurt and then Husnadinov switched over. So I guess maybe you go back to Husnadinov, Elias Lindholm, David Pastrnak, move Geekie back off that line. Maybe that's an option they could go back to because that is what they were rolling pre Elias Lindholm injury.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, also, I guess I don't expect this to happen, but I guess there's a chance maybe Elias Lindholm beats Mittelstadt back, and then you can put Husnadinov in Steeves' spot there on the second line. But it feels like Mittelstadt's probably closer to returning than Lindholm is. So, yeah, I mean, certainly a discussion worth having at a future time. Obviously, a lot can change between now and then. We still think Lindholm's out probably at least a couple more weeks. So
Both of them had similar injuries, though, if you really think about it. I mean, Elias Lindholm's looked like a knee too.
Yeah.
They both were similar. And you don't want to see knee injuries. Those are really difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
I guess the encouraging thing for both is that it wasn't something more serious like a torn ACL or anything, which would obviously require surgery and either end their season or at least knock them out several months. So at least it seems like both of them avoided any kind of serious ligament damage or anything like that.
Oh yeah, otherwise they would have already had surgery.
Yeah,
like they would have done that right away. Like with Barkov, in preseason and him being out for the rest of the season for the Panthers, unless they go on a deep playoff run, he might be able to come back, but realistically, probably not. You would have already seen the surgery. It would not be a week-to-week designation. So yeah, at least there's that. That's been avoided. And I did want to talk about Geeky too, because once again, he scores kind of quietly. He's still tied for third most goals in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, at one point Saturday night, he was tied for the league lead with Crosby and I think it was Cutter Gauthier at the time. We're all at 11, and since then, Nathan MacKinnon has scored 3 times, so he's up to 14. Yeah. Cole Caulfield has 12, and then it's Geeky,
Gauthier,
Crosby, Gauthier, and Bo Horvat, Bruins killer Bo Horvat at 11.
And then Macklin's got 10.
Dude, he's so good.
He's
been. How about like some of the kids in the NHL just tearing it up? Like Celebrini near the top of the scoring leaderboard. Connor Bedard's up there. Like
Cutter's still young too. I would still throw
Gauthier's still young. Leo Carlson's been awesome for Anaheim. So yeah, it's exciting to see. Like just as a fan of the sport, like kind of this next generation of young stars really coming into their own, like right in front of us, and challenging guys like Crosby and MacKinnon, like at the top of the points race. I forget what I was talking about. You mentioned Macklin Celebrini, and listen, like you're gonna lose me. Like I'm off.
I lost.
I'm just daydreaming now.
I remember when he.
Did you see the video the Sharks posted of him getting out of his car?
No.
No, it's like he does this like hair flip, and it's like it looks like a runway video. I'm like, oh, the Sharks were like, man, like talking about like gassing this guy up. Like, yeah, basically, like.
Yeah, and you watch like your jaw like hit the ground. You're like, oh yeah, that's my guy right there.
I watched it 200 times. No, I tweeted it out. I wrote a typical BU.
Yeah, nice. By the way, Scott, this is for you. They're having a Mac night at Aganis in December. I gotta look up what day it is, but it is a Macklin and McAvoy bobblehead night. So
wow.
You got to get yourself there.
I do. Yeah. That's it's also like now they're starting all the Team Canada Olympic talk too.
Yeah.
Like, I know we touched on it last episode because Brian's right. Like Celebrini has to be on that team. And Connor Bedard too.
Totally unbiased opinion.
I mean, like, yeah, obviously I'm biased. I love Macklin Celebrini, but like, objectively, I think it would be insane for Canada not to take him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it should be.
How did we get here? Morgan Geeky being one of the league leaders in goals.
You remembered what we were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I said a couple weeks ago, but it's like, maybe he really just is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL right now. Like, getting kind of hard to deny. I think since November 27th of last year, whatever. I think he's second only to Leon Draisaitl in goals since then. I think Nesson even had the stats since, or no, actually, I think this is a Pasternak stat since January 1st, I think Pasternak leads the NHL in points. But yeah, and again, like it still feels like it hasn't fully started coming for those guys at 5-on-5. Like I said, like I think they're starting to get there with some better hockey recently, but both of them, Geeky and Pasternak, it's like they're putting up points even without that really taking off yet. So the ceilings even could be even higher for them. If and when that comes on a consistent basis, because they're getting it on the power play. The power play has been much better this year, and obviously they're two big parts of it. So yeah, I don't want to like keep repeating myself, but he has a knack for the net. And he has a really good shot, and he's getting more and more opportunities to use it. And the Bruins are going to keep finding ways to get him those chances, because it's. And I mentioned this before too. Like even when he makes a mistake or doesn't capitalize on a chance, you just like expect him to get it back. A couple of games ago, he had another back check that was kind of a little bit questionable, but it's like you see kind of him have that mindset of like, I'm gonna get it back. Like I'm gonna respond. I'm not gonna let like one bad thing or one missed opportunity turn into like a bad night overall.
Yeah, like pouting and killing confidence or anything like that. Which, by the way, I did find out Mac night is actually 2 nights. Mac Attack bobblehead weekend. It's Mac Lynn on December 5th and Charlie McAvoy on December 6th. So, and you know what? You can come see me because I'll be there. So, just double whammy. Great night.
I'm trying to think of other BU Max. Pete MacArthur, he was a really good player for them. John McCarthy.
I mean, does McLaughlin count?
Of course, yeah. That I think they're doing my bobblehead in July. Yeah, I think.
Oh, in July. All
right. We're handing those out at the Gannis. There's nothing going on. You just gotta come see me. I'm gonna.
He's selling them out of his car.
Yeah, I'll be eating at T. Anthony's, getting some chicken parm.
There you go. Okay, all right. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Scott? I feel like we've hit a lot of what I wanted to say.
I mean, Jeremy Swayman, good in net, stops 30 of 33, so continue to hit all the right buttons goaltending wise in terms of this. It's not a straight rotation. Obviously, they've kind of, they'll ride guys for a couple of games if it warrants it. But I am interested to see the approach this week. I imagine you go back to Swayman Tuesday for Toronto again, then probably give Korpisalo in Ottawa Thursday night, right? Like Korpisalo just had a really good game against Ottawa. Swayman had a bad game up in Ottawa last time you were up there. And then that would line up going back to Swayman Saturday night in Montreal, which is, one of those big marquee games you want your quote unquote number one in for. So, but like that could change, right? Like those guys have to earn that, right? Swayman has to, if he is in there Tuesday, he has to be good again. If he has a bad game against Toronto, that opens the door to ride Korpisalo again, like Sturm did, last week or a week and a half ago. But both goalies right now are during this win streak consistently giving you good efforts. They've both won 3 of these 6 games now.
Yeah, and you got to hope that Ottawa Swayman game was an anomaly, because I mean that was tied or slightly worse than his worst game from last season. So like you don't have many of those in a season. Even though Swayman had a down season last year, like that was still an anomaly on top of that season stats. So yeah, like hopefully that was just put that one behind you and move on and look like he has since then. So yeah, maybe Swayman in Toronto. It would make sense. Korpisalo in Ottawa, he, like you mentioned, because of the first meeting and because Korpisalo came from Ottawa. And, you know, it might add a little bit of something to his performance, having that connection there. He won the goalie battle between him and Allmark last time at the Garden a few days ago. So I don't see any reason why you switch up that. But yeah, it should be an interesting week of hockey. Can the Bruins continue their 6-game win streak? I think it's after what we saw in Toronto this past game. I think they could beat them again, right? I think they can beat Ottawa. They just beat Ottawa. Like the Canadians, probably the toughest of this stretch, just based off of where you're catching Toronto. Not to like insult Toronto, but where you're catching them currently on what seems like a low. And the Canadians have had a good season so far. So yeah, I mean, a bunch of Canadian team matchups as well. It's just funny to see them all in a row.
Yeah, and like I kind of said at the top, like obviously we are continuing to learn a lot about these Bruins really every game, and if they can make it 2 in a row against Toronto, that definitely tells us something. Objectively, like I think Tuesday will tell us more about Toronto. Like either they bounce back after a really bad weekend and beat a team that, let's be honest, they are more talented than. Or like things could go sideways really quickly if they lose to the Bruins again, or if they come out with a subpar effort in Boston. So,
I mean, they're losing their minds up there. They do that a lot though, but
yes.
it's funny to me, and not based off points percentage, because this is different if you go off points percentage, because the Bruins have played more games than a lot of teams. But if you look at just the straight up standings, by number of points, it goes Canadians first in the Atlantic, Bruins second in the Atlantic, Senators third, and then Toronto is not even in a wild card spot. They are outside of the playoffs just based on pure points. And so they're now in the position the Bruins were in a few weeks ago, and they're on the outside looking in. It wasn't a surprise when it was the Bruins, just because we know what the turnover was and we know what the challenges were going to be for that team. I don't think Toronto expected to be outside of a playoff spot right now. And don't look now, but we're almost at Thanksgiving, right? It's not that far away. Thanksgiving is what, 2 weeks away? A little more than 2 weeks. So
yeah, a little more than 2 weeks.
So we're not that far off from that. And the Bruins are currently second. Once again, not based off point percentage, but just actually in the standings, if you were to call it today, like that's where they were. But yeah, we're getting to that Thanksgiving deadline, and they're in a playoff spot. So.
Yeah, and on points percentage, it's still pretty remarkable to look at like how crowded the Eastern Conference is. It's only Buffalo under hockey 500, under 500 points percentage. At the top, it's Montreal, New Jersey, Carolina, all over 700. And then everyone else is between 500 and like 618 within, a handful of points. And it's changed fast for some teams. Like Detroit got off to a great start. Now they're 9th in points percentage out of the playoffs. They've gone 4-6 in their last 10.
And by the way, if you're like, this isn't how it works, but like if you were to just take the top 8 teams and those are the teams that make the playoffs, the Bruins are in the playoffs in that. Just barely, but they are.
Yeah, Bruins they're 5th in the conference in points, 8th in points percentage. And yeah, there's teams outside that top 8 right now that like you're still waiting for, including Toronto, but also the Panthers are 7-7-1, just treading water. The Capitals are 7-7-1. Like they were the number 1 seed last year. They're dealing with some injuries. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois is out months now. Like that, they already weren't super deep at center, so like that's really going to hurt them. So it's kind of it's pretty wide open, which is how we've kind of been feeling all season.
Yeah. The Eastern Conference is just insane. And then I don't think Calgary's won since we talked about them be in last place. I know they've lost their
Yeah.
last 2 games in a row, so
Yeah, they're not doing so hot.
no.
St.
What do they have?
Louis is
4 wins?
still way down there.
4 wins in
Jim
17 games. I mean, that's rough.
Jim Montgomery healthy scratched Jordan Kyrou a couple games ago. So
Yeah, he's got only 5 wins in 16 games. That is not good. Minus 19 on the season for them, team goal differential. It's and you mentioned this before too, Scott. Like a lot of these teams in the East are, pretty decently in the plus or right around it. Like Columbus is -1, even though they're second to last in the East. So it's interesting and still a lot to be determined in the next few weeks pre Thanksgiving marker.
yeah, but Bruins up to +1 on goal differential now. Back into the positive.
All right. Anything else, Scott, you wanted to say? No fashion segment? What are we? No, nothing?
I don't
Can't
think
do that without
so.
Brian. That feels like cheating.
Yeah. No, nothing nothing else that's really stood out. Big good weekend for BU. You had an exciting game there Friday night. The overtime win against Merrimack.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of just like a game that had no flow up until probably, at least for BU, up until the last 5 minutes of regulation. And then Cole Hudson does Cole Hudson things and scores in overtime, like, was it 20 seconds into overtime? Just who gives him that much space? I'm sorry, that's on you. You cannot just let him skate right into the zone without, slowing him down at all. And he scores. And yeah, then they beat Merrimack on Saturday too. So they have a 5-point weekend, and they needed that. I mean, they've been splitting. They've given up a lot of goals, which is the same thing as happening to them last season. And then they end up being a national title team, right? Like they go to the championship game, they lose, but they make it to the title game. So still, we're in the early part of college hockey where teams are still figuring out how to keep pucks out of their net. And Yegorov hasn't played up to what he can do either. So if he gets going, I don't know. They dropped from at one point earlier in the season, they were first in the poll, ranked number 1, and then they dropped down to 12. And I haven't checked today. Did they put the poll out today?
I don't
Yet.
think so. Not yet.
So they should. I mean, they should theoretically go up. It might only be a little bit, but right now Maine is the only Hockey East team in the top 10, which not good because Hockey East has been losing their non-conference games. So last year they got 6 teams into the tournament, and this year we'll see. But
Yeah,
I know you're happy
that
about
could hurt those. Like the non-conference record affects. Used to be the pairwise, now it's the NPI, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like those games affect that a lot. So we'll see how the season plays out. Also, bounce back weekend for BC, who like BU had been struggling, was under 500. BC swept Vermont. Hagen's
Dean got another goal, right? Dean scored Friday, I think.
I believe so. And Will Moore scored Saturday. Hagen's had an assist in each game. He hit a really nice assist on what ended up being the winning goal Friday. Noteworthy that Hagen's was. I didn't get to watch a ton of this game, so I don't know how much is held up in game action, but was listed on the wing for both of those games, with Teddy Stiga moving to center on BC's top line. So, something to keep an eye on there. Greg Brown's been trying to spark that line. Like they've had chances, but they haven't been converting a ton, and they've been, quite frankly, giving a little too much away at the other end. So, little shake up there, worth monitoring, obviously, as we continue to see how Hagen's plays this year. I would say, his production has been good, not great so far.
Yeah, and Dean did score Friday. When does BC and BU happen? January 30th.
Yeah, it's not till later.
Yeah, January 30th at Aganis. And then, I mean, obviously there's a potential for them to meet in the Bean Pot. They play BU plays Harvard the first round. So like they could meet in the championship game of the Bean Pot too, which I think is like February 14th or something like that. February, I don't know, mid-February, we'll call it.
Well, I mean, it's always the first Monday of February. So yeah, February 7th or whatever.
February
it's
9th. There it is.
It's right after the Super Bowl, right?
And yeah, actually, and I said it wrong. BU plays Northeastern first, BC plays Harvard, and then they could meet in the championship. So yeah. But those are going to be good games. And then they play them again right after that, February 27th and 28th. So
February 2nd is the first day of the Bean Pot.
Yes. And then the championship is the 9th. And the women's is before that. But I think I'm broadcasting that again. I normally don't hear until about 4 weeks before. So we'll see. But anyway, I think we've covered quite a bit. We will have Brian back next episode. So we'll get his opinion on some of this as well, especially the Lohrei stuff. I'm sure he has stuff to say. So anyway, Scott, we're good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.